So today I have received a suggestion for a topic, and that is how to deal with loneliness. Quite a popular topic these days, and probably quite a relevant one too. I'm sure each one of us have experienced loneliness at some point in our life, even for a short period or for a longer period, or something that we can relate to some degree. I mean, some people may have experienced it a lot, much more strongly, and others may have felt a little bit, even. Even though we say we have busy lives, we have stressful lives, we have so much to do, the same very people who are so busy, who have so much to do, also say that they feel lonely. So I want to take a few moments. I want you to take a few moments to reflect, get in touch, and see what is loneliness. If you are experiencing loneliness, even now you can just reflect, or you can recollect and remember how it felt, what was it, and what caused it. Just get in touch and understand, because we so easily say this. But what is it? Now, is loneliness caused by because you are living alone? Or do people get lonely even if they live with other people? I think loneliness and living alone, while it could be related, are not the same, not quite the same at all. Some people who live with other people still have a sense of loneliness. Some other people who live alone do not feel lonely. So loneliness is not directly related to living alone. However, living alone can be a cause if you don't know how to conduct yourself or how to deal with the situation. And often, if you have been busy, or if you have been living in a busy household or with someone who took a lot of your time and energy, and if they are suddenly gone from your life, even for a period of time, suddenly there is an emptiness because your mind was so preoccupied before, so entangled, either in a happy way or even in an unhappy way. It doesn't matter whether it was happy or unhappy. Still, that when that preoccupation, which took so much of your energy, is suddenly gone and you're left with kind of not knowing, hanging there, not knowing what to do with yourself for a while because that was your habit, that was your whole life. You're consumed inside that whatever was happening, then that emptiness can be felt like loneliness until you sort of settle down and find a new direction to your life. So whatever it is, loneliness is not a very pleasant state of mind. However, living alone can be quite enjoyable if you know how to do it well. Yes, seclusion is praised by the Buddha. In fact, it is an incredible support for the Dhamma. I often say in Dhamma talks, how it is one of the foundations. Viveka, Viveka Nisitang is a foundation. So seclusion, living alone, living away from all the people, the hustle and bustle of the city, and stuff is a great support for the development of the spiritual path. But for somebody who is not yet ready, or somebody who has, sort of lost it, or it got a bit disturbed due to maybe sickness or things happening in your life, or you need some readjusting time and come back into it. But once you're on the spiritual path, when things are happening, being alone is an incredible, nice thing to happen. Yeah. So this is important to distinguish between living alone and feeling lonely. So this also indicates that loneliness is something that how you relate. It is about how you relate to the present moment. When you relate to the present moment with a bit of negativity, when you feel a lack of joy, lack of happiness, lack of care, that is when these feelings of loneliness starts to crop up in our mind. Yeah, you feel like there's no one in my life, no friends, nobody loves me, nobody cares for me, I have no one, nothing to do, I'm kind of feeling lost and unhappy, and like no one to share my life with, or whatever it is, however it is. But it is how you project. It is created by your mind. It's not something that falls on your lap out of the blue. It is conditioned, but it is created by ourselves, by me, the way we project into the present moment. So it is important to see this. Then we are empowered. We feel empowered to be able to do something about it, right? If it was something completely external that's fallen on your lap, then it's hard to deal with. But when we know that these feelings of loneliness, just like other feelings, all the negative mindset, all of them are created by the way we attend, the way we give attention. Just reminding again, manasikara sambhava sabbe dhamma, right? So it is the way we give attention. Manasikara is the way we direct our mind. And to what we direct our mind and how we direct our mind is what gives rise to the Dhamma, which is the mind states. So loneliness too is created the way we relate to. It's our perspective of the present moment. And also remember, loneliness is also a concept that we have created. All words are concepts, right? They are also created things. I mean, I wonder whether, like, if you go to a tribal community, whether they even have a word for loneliness, whether they even have a word for stress, whether they even have a word for anxiety and panic. There are so many things, so many, like mental health, other conditions. Yeah, I'm sure, there are many cultures that don't have this. These are things also created, and once we have that concept, we sort of relate to it, we also generate it, we think about in such a way, we think, or even the idea of me is a concept, right? So then I am here. There's nobody there, nothing to do, nobody to share my life with, nobody to sort of, do things with, nobody to care for me. So I feel lonely. So all of these things, think about it. Yeah, we are, using all of these different concepts and how it should be, what I want, all of these things are created. So you do actually have a choice to think about things in a different way. The funny thing is, when we are with people, and usually if our families and, when we have to live with people, they can sometimes drive us crazy, right? Not all families, but, we do have some people that we rather not have to deal with. And when we are having to be with the family or with, whoever you have to live with, then sometimes the idea is, oh, when am I going to be alone? When are they going to go away? When are my children going to leave home? When is my, whatever? How am I? Your whole life is trying to organize yourself to be alone, to have some time for yourself, to have some rest. But then when you get it, the opposite happens. Oh, now there's nobody in my life, nobody to even, give me trouble, nobody to focus attention on, nothing to do. I feel so lonely. This is so funny. Yeah? We go between these ends, and this is everybody. It's not just one person. We are all kind of like that when we don't know, when we don't have enough clarity, but most importantly, when we do not have enough energy and clarity in our mind. And it is, conditioned as well. Like, if you had a busy life and very stressful life or lots of things happening, then of course, when your mental and physical energies are down, and then when situations change, if people leave and you're suddenly alone and you haven't readjusted, then you may feel that unpleasantness of just being alone because you're not ready there. You're ready yet. So it is to be accepted. Expected and accepted with understanding. But the good news is, even loneliness is not going to stay there forever. Loneliness is not yours. Yeah. So it just comes because of conditions. All mind states are unreliable, transient, impermanent, subject to change. This is what the Buddha says. Right? This is the beautiful teachings of the Buddha, in the right view. So when we remember that, also it gives us hope. Okay, I just have to be for a while and it's going to change. But sometimes being there in that unpleasant state can be difficult. So if that is the case, if it is unbearable and it feels like you're going down and even going into states of depression, which can happen after loneliness, then it is important to do something to take care of yourself. Otherwise, if you have the strength of mind, sometimes you can just wait for a little while, just have a good sleep, have a good rest, go for a walk, have a cup of tea. After a while, it'll readjust and you'll start to be at ease by being alone and or with the feelings of your loneliness. So that is if the loneliness was caused because suddenly you are now alone. But I'll address the other way of feeling lonely as well. So the other way of feeling lonely is when you feel that you can't relate to the people around you. Yeah, they're not living according to your expectations. You're not getting what you desire from the people around you, right? When that starts to happen, even though you have so many people around you or you're living with people, you still feel lonely because you feel like, um, they are not part of your way of receiving the world or expectations of the world. So in either way, you can see our relationship to the present moment is what creates. So we have a choice. So the problem, as always, is even though we know we have a choice, even though I can tell how to project in a better way to get rid of this, it's not easy to do. And it is not easy to do precisely because if we don't have that mental and physical energy. So building up that can be a priority. And that gives you something to do towards ending your loneliness. So it's a win-win situation, right? By engaging yourself in something also will help to reduce the loneliness. But when that sort of takes off, the loneliness will just disappear, right? And that is really taking the spiritual path a bit more seriously. So paying a little bit more attention to generosity, something that is a bit easy to do when you are even tired, when your mind is down, even when you're feeling lonely. You can always find someone and make someone happy. Yeah, I mean, in the sense, even a stranger, at a supermarket or in the train, whatever, just to smile to somebody, engage in conversation, listen to somebody, give your time, do something very simple. If we are motivated, we can always find ways of giving, serving, and supporting and helping or making somebody else happy. It doesn't have to be your loved ones and people close to you, anyone. Yeah. So when you start to engage in this kind of act of generosity, which gives joy to your heart, that is a very helpful support. That then will give a bit more energy to your mind to conduct yourself in a better way. Some people are naturally able to conduct themselves well because they have that natural build up. Others control themselves. It's with force that they act and behave in a nice way. And that can take a lot of energy as well. While it's still better to be like that than otherwise, it's still better, really, if you can build up the right causes and act in a way that is wholesome by body, speech, and mind, in a very natural and right way. Yeah, and that is why I mentioned generosity, because it's from Dana Sila Bhavana. Yeah, so it's from generosity that you get the energy to be a virtuous person. Because even though you want to be virtuous, you want to be kind, you want to do the right thing, if you do not have a starting level of joy and energy, it is hard. And that is why, even though with all of our good intentions, we say the wrong thing and do the wrong thing and hurt other people, right? So therefore, then you can build up. And when we start to do that, again, energy starts to build up. So also, if it is really difficult, then again, find wholesome ways of using that time that you have. That, I mean, when you have time is also really when you start to feel lonely, right? Even you're busy, when you're really in the middle of doing things, you don't really feel lonely. But after, when you stop, you feel lonely. But, but we can engage in wholesome ways. Then there are different degrees of engagement, from being very, very subtle to a little bit more complex, but you need to decide and see where you're at and what level of engagement is helpful. So sometimes it could be, taking up studying, always reading the suttas, listening to the suttas is a really nice way of resetting yourself, coming back to that initial inspiration of the spiritual path and, the joys of it, the benefits of it, and what to do, how to do. All of these things, the more and more you hear, which is why most of you come to these Dhamma talks or listen to many other Dhamma talks, read, contemplate Dhamma. This is a very beautiful way of building up our mind. Nothing goes to waste, because all of that the studying of the suttas is building up a right view, and that is a very essential and a big part of cultivation of your mind. So that is nice. And then also you can write, a few things, few notes, things like this. So find a skillful ways, and based on Dhamma and engaging in the Dhamma, But it can be a little bit even creative, something, a little creative project that is still related to the Dhamma. There's many things. If you want, you can always find something that your mind inclines, that brings joy, but in a good way, yeah, in a spiritual way, in a way that is not energy draining, but energy building. So when we start doing that slowly, slowly, as we build up that energy in the body and the mind, and when the joy states starts to come up, even outside of meditation, joy states, these are not the piti state, but these are like really energized minds. The gladness of the mind starts to come up in our normal day-to-day life, because we are now living life in a wholesome way, in a virtuous way, in a way that is beneficial for myself and others, and in a kind way. Then, you can also have a bit more success in meditation. Otherwise, we could sit and sit and sit when we have time, but meditation may not take off. Because if meditation is going well, there is no possibility to feel lonely. So if we have feelings of loneliness, then that is an indication that our meditation isn't going that well. It could be better. But it is not something that we can do by act of will. As we remember now, Chetana Karaniya Sutta, it is not with an act of will that we get samadhi, but it is through putting in the right courses. So which is why I spoke about those things. So as you're doing that, as the mind is getting energized and joy states are coming, there is no place for loneliness. Even though you're alone, you have nothing to do, nobody around you, you are so very happy, so at ease. And there's so much time to build and develop this beautiful spiritual path. So it's actually a great opportunity to have that. So another big obstacle that gets in the way of all of this is when we distance ourselves from ourselves. Yeah. So when we sort of rejected ourselves or ignored ourselves just because we were so busy, or all of our energy and attention was taken away by somebody else, because there are some very strong people in our lives who can drain us and take all of our energy away. And sort of we have sort of not got in touch with ourselves. So it is really important that we build up a good relationship. That's why today's guided meditation, I started like that, getting to know ourselves, getting in touch with ourselves is really, really important. Yeah. Even if it is a little unpleasant, if the mind states aren't great and you're experiencing a bit loneliness, of course, it may not be all that pleasant. But when you bring in the idea of affection, you see yourself also as somebody else who is lonely in this world, who's really suffering, who has nobody. Like even you can imagine yourself like a little abandoned kitten or a puppy or a child or something like this. And there are many like that in the world. And they're in much worse situation than anybody else who probably be listening to this talk. Certainly anybody who is in this audience, nobody is anywhere near that kind of level of suffering and being alone and lonely, right? So, when we think and then we build up, we can have compassion, right? We can have compassion to that little kitten, to that little puppy, or to that little child. Why can't we feel the same for ourselves who's going through a difficult time for whatever reason? Sometimes it's not the reason that we think it's what's causing our loneliness. It could be much more than what we think. It could be just the physical health, and weather. It could be so many things that contribute towards this. So whatever it is whatever we are going through. So being able to get in touch with ourselves and to build up a bit of compassion, do that self-care is so important. If there is anything that I want to really highlight every single talk, and that is self-care. Because if anybody is interested in the spiritual path, in building up yourself, reaching enlightenment, then self-care is number one. Yeah, we have to take care of this body and this mind and do what needs to be done, what is helpful to look after ourselves. We can't ignore, we can't, and this is also true if you also have to care for somebody else. So that's another matter, but whatever it is really important. So when we start to focus on self-care, self-compassion, and another one that comes up is self-forgiveness, because or even though in the surface we might justify our actions, but deep down in our heart there may be things that we are still having regret and remorse about, right? About our own conduct, our own behavior, or things that have happened to us in our life. Yeah, so it is really important that we deal with these things, understand either if there are things that has happened to ourselves in our life, then we can understand karma, karmic retribution. At least that karma, I understand now, so you can let it go. Whatever unskillful things I always mention, these are conditioned to us by our past. So we need to be able to forgive ourselves. So these things are also very necessary, because it is when we ignore them, when we can't forgive ourselves, when we are not happy with ourselves, when we have no compassion for ourselves, when we don't have affection for ourselves, when we ignore ourselves, that is when we also start to feel lonely. So recognize these things if these are part of your life. And it is not for everybody. Not all of these things are for everybody. Some of them are there, some of them are not there. Whatever it is, they are in your feelings of loneliness. This is important to get in touch. And another thing, very often what people do is when they start to feel lonely, they get really busy and get into real big distractions. I mean, that's not helpful. I did mention that you can, do something skillful like the spiritual path, building up little things, reading or studying suttas and things, but not over the top. You also have to balance it out also with a little bit of time, where you relax, rest, and get in touch with yourself. So you prepare, maybe you read a sutta, contemplate a sutta, do an act of kindness, something like this to build up a bit of joy and gladness in your mind. But when you have that joy and gladness, then it is also really important to sit and be with yourself, right? And understand, what am I going through? What's going on? Why am I feeling the way I am feeling? And also see how it is created by the way you project, how you think about things. And also see that you have a choice to look at things differently. This can be done when you have gladness in the mind. So this is why I mentioned in the right order of doing things. So then, mind states disappear very quickly. It can go away and disappear. Your loneliness can vanish very quickly. It can come back again if you don't take care of yourself, but it's okay. These are things that come and go. You have much to learn from these things. This is the thing. This is this really unreliable thing about our mind. It's like our mind robs us from happiness and things like that. Yeah, it's called the magician by the Buddha, right? It creates and comes up with things. So when you know this, there's many things that you can do. We all know enough Dhamma already. So many Dhamma talks that we have already heard, learned from so many people, which we can apply to deal with situation. But, it's starting from that very simple place and going forward in the right order, which is what is important. And it is my job is to just remind you what you already know. But I also have a very beautiful set of verses that's really relevant to this idea of mind how the mind behaves, how mind concocts things, including our loneliness and all the other, states of minds, and how it takes us in a journey through all kinds of terrain. And this is from Theragatha. That is the utterances by enlightened monks. And the nuns. Theragatha is from monks, Therigatha is from the nuns. And this one is from one of the monks called Talaputta Theragatha. It's really long. I have 7 or 8 pages of verses. He's very prolific in his verses. I don't think I can go through all of them, but it's really beautiful to understand the working of our minds. And you can see, although this person, by the time he uttered this, was fully enlightened, but you can see he's talking about from the time before, from the time when he was a lay person, before he even became a monk, the way how his mind was going on. Right? So it's kind of fun as well. It's hilarious at times. And I think we can all relate to this. So which is why I want to read this out. I don't think it needs a lot of explanation, but just reading it out might be just enough to just, sort of see what we have been discussing so far. Okay, here I start. So, oh, when will I stay in a mountain cave alone with no companion, discerning all states of existence as impermanent? This hope of mine, when will it be? Or when will I stay happily in the forest, a sage wearing a torn robe, dressed in ochre, unselfish, without desire, with greed, hatred, and delusion destroyed? Or when will I stay alone in the woods, fearless, discerning this body as impermanent, a nest of death and disease, oppressed by death and old age? When will it be for me? Can you start relating? Especially if you're on the spiritual path, and especially if you're on lay life, busy life with family. We long to these things, right? To be away in a mountain cave alone from my mad family, away from my busy work, have so much time to meditate. This is kind of like a fantasy for all of us, for all people, when they don't have it, we want the opposite, right? So it's really something we can all relate to, not maybe exactly, but similar, right? Or when will I live, having grasped the sharp sword of wisdom and cut the creeper of craving and tangles around everything? The mother of fear, the beginner of suffering, when will it be for me? Or when will I sit on a lion's throne, swiftly grasp the sword of sages, forged by wisdom, of fiery might, and swiftly break Mara and his army? When will it be? So, or when will I focus on my own goal on Giribhaja mountain, free of oppression by laziness, hunger, thirst, wind, heat, insects, and reptiles? When will it be? Or when will I have samadhi and mindfulness, and with understanding attain the 4 truths that were realized by the great sage and are so very hard to see? When will it be for me? Okay. Or when will I devote to tranquility, see with understanding the infinite sights, sounds, smells, taste, touches, and mental phenomena as burning? When will it be? For many years you begged me, enough of living in a house for you. Why do you not urge me on mind? Now I've gone forth as an ascetic. So this is the funny part, right? So in the past, when you were in lay life, you're dreaming, fantasizing on going away, becoming a monastic, living in the forest, in a mountain cave, practicing, getting jhana, building up mindfulness, getting all this wisdom, doing all of these things. But once you get there, even this is common for monastics too. We all have our times. Sometimes we also have a very flat period or even going down period where we think, oh my goodness, it was so hard to make it happen, to get this point, to, lose all of our hair and have these brown robes around us and have this beautiful opportunity. But it says, didn't you beg me mine on Giribhaja, the birds with colorful wings, greeting the thunder, Mahinda's voices will delight you as you practice jhana in the forest? So these were our fantasies, right? We'll, nicely get into deep meditation, hearing the beautiful sounds of the birds on that mountain cave and delighting. So this is obviously now by this time, things are not happening. So they've gone to the forest, into the mountain cave, but what the mind promised isn't yet happening. So in my family circle, friends, loved ones, and relatives, and in the world, sports and play and sensual pleasures, all these I have abandoned for the sake of this. And even then, you're not content with me, mind. So now we come to the point. So obviously, for this monastic, for this person, so when he was a young monk, maybe when he, not young, but when he first ordained and went forth and with all these expectations of, ideal monastic life. And then, the mind has come across discontent. So not happy, not getting into meditation and suffering. So that is why it says, you promised me all of these things. Now that I'm here, you are still not content. So it's blaming, complaining to the mind. So staying in the grove, resounding with cries of peacocks and herons, and liked by the leopards and tigers, abandoned concern for the body without fail. So you used to urge me, mind. So the mind has in the past told you to do this, to do that. The mind says, develop the jhanas and spiritual faculties, the powers, the factors of awakening, and samadhi, meditation. Realize the three knowledges in the teaching of the Buddha. So you used to urge me, mind. Develop the Eightfold Path for realization, realizing the deathless, emancipating, plunging into the end of all suffering, and cleansing all defilements. So you used to urge me, mind. Properly reflecting on the aggregates as suffering and abandon that form which suffering arises. Make an end of suffering in this very life. So you used to urge me, mind. Properly discerning that impermanence in suffering, that emptiness is non-self, and that misery is death. Uproot the wandering mind. So used to urge me, mind. Be a wilderness dweller and an alms eater, one who lives in a charnel ground, a rag robe wearer, one who never lies down, always delighting ascetic practices. So you used to urge me, mind. This is really kind of almost funny in a way, because this is how we get people coming from all walks of life into monastic life. And some people are so into wanting to become really ascetic. They've just started and they really go for it and they really give a hard time to themselves. Sometimes, that is why it is so important to do things gradually and put in the right kind of course at the right time and build it up. But if you go with all these ideas which the mind tells you, do this now, and if it is out of place, then that is what's going to happen. And obviously this is what happened to this monk as well in the beginning as a young monastic. Yeah. Mind, when you urge me towards the impermanent and unstable, you are acting just like a person who plants trees. Then, when they are about to fruit, wishes to cut down the very same tree. Right? It gives you hope. It tells you you need to do this, that, and the other. And then, when you're already there, have all this amazing opportunity, and then the mind goes into discontent, don't get into the meditation, can't develop insights. So it's frustrating. So this is the complaint. So it's all about the mind, right? This is why this is funny, because the person is saying the mind, the way the mind was thinking, the mind urging you to do these things, and still suffering. So it's really funny, but this very set of verses also encapsulate all of the teachings. If you can see, like if you know your suttas well, you can see everything is touched upon. Really beautiful, actually. So I'm just reading it for your inspiration. But to do true justice for this set of verses, I think you need to just, look them up, contemplate one by one, take a long time. Even doing that will get you out of your loneliness, because you have something very inspiring and beautiful to do, right? So then you incorporeal mind, far traveler, lone wanderer, I won't do your bidding anymore. Sensual pleasures are suffering, painful, and very dangerous. I'll wander with my mind focused only on Nibbana. So slowly now insight is starting to come. So suffered enough, reflected in this very way itself, like how what you used to think, what your mind told you, what it will be, and how it was otherwise, and all of those things, realize that unreliability, it's like our mind is like a really bad friend, somebody who deceives you, very deceptive. It promises you, tells you so many things which are not true, but we still buy into them, right? For decades it's been doing that, but we still get fooled because we trust our mind. It's one thing that we should not trust. It's really unreliable, very transient. So by this time in these verses, this monk has started to understand and now saying, no, I am not going to do your bidding anymore. I'm only going to be focused on Nibbana, because now I have come to understand that sensual pleasures are suffering, painful, and very dangerous. So slowly now trying to deal with that discontent, right? I didn't renounce due to bad luck or shamelessness, no because of whim, no banishment, no for the sake of livelihood. It was because I agreed to you promises you made mine, and that is that enlightenment, right? So it's really funny the way this is written. Having few wishes, abandoning, disparagement, stilling, suffering, these are praised by the good. So you used to urge me mine, but now you continue with your old habits. Craving, ignorance, the loved and the unloved, pretty things, pleasant feelings, and the delightful kinds of sensual pleasure. I vomited them out, and I can't swallow back what I have vomited up. Now, obviously, the person has, I think, reached enlightenment and telling his mind off, telling you, see, now you can't do what you used to do with me, because I have had insight into what sensual pleasures are. It's really, really nice to say, I have vomited it out and I'm not going to swallow back what I have vomited. Quite gross, but very apt simile about what happens, what these enlightening insights do to us. That's why they are irreversible changes, right? So stream winning, after you become a stream winning, there is no going back, no turning around, because you have vomited out the sense of self, not only the sensual pleasures, even the sense of self to a large degree has been vomited up and not going to swallow back again. I've done your bidding everywhere, mind, for many births. I haven't done anything to upset you. Yet you show your gratitude by producing craving inside yourself. Really funny, right? It's telling off the mind. For a long time, I've transmigrated in this suffering you've created. So very beautiful, right? I'm going to read it again for my own inspiration. I've done your bidding everywhere, mind. For many births, I haven't done anything to upset you. Yet you show your gratitude by producing craving inside yourself. For a long time, I've transmigrated in suffering you created. Sarcastic as well, but quite beautiful. Only you, mind, make us holy men. You make us lords or royal sages. Sometimes we become traders or workers. Life as a god is also on account of you. You alone make us titans. Because of you, we are born in hell. Then sometimes we become animals. Life as a ghost is also on account of you. So this is a very beautiful way of his sharing his insight, how we take ourselves into all of these different realms. Our mind is what creates all of these realms and takes us there. And we have transmigrated through all of these things, and it was on account of our mind. So come what may, you won't betray me again, dazzling me with your ever-changing display. You play with me like I am mad, but how have I ever failed you, mind? In the past my mind wandered, how it wished, where it liked, as it pleased. Now I will carefully guide it, as the rutting elephant is guided by a trainer with a hook. The teacher will that this world appear to me as impermanent, unstable, insubstantial. Mind, let me leap into the conqueror's teachings. Carry me over the great flood, so very hard to cross. Things have changed, mind. Nothing could make me return to your control. I've gone forth in the teaching of the great sage. Those like me don't come to ruin. So, this statement is clearly an indication that by this time he's at least a stream winner. Mountains, oceans, rivers, the earth, the four directions, the intermediate directions below and in the sky, the three states of existence are all impermanent and troubled. Where can you go to find happiness, mind? Mind, what will you do to someone who has made the ultimate commitment? Nothing could make me a follower under your control, mind. There's no way you touch a bellows with a mouth open at each end, let alone the body flowing with its 9 streams. These are the 9 orifices of our body, where sometimes people get so excited with, but these are just dirty places. You ascended the mountain peak, full of nature's beauty, frequented by boars and antelopes, a grove sprinkled with fresh water in the rainy season, and there you'll be happy in your cave home. Peacocks with beautiful necks and crests, colorful tails, feathers, and wings, crying out as sweet sounding thunder. They'll delight you as you practice jhana in the forest. So as you practice, because you see these kinds of things in other utterances by the monastics. If you want to read later, the Kassapa Thera Gatha, there also you can read how Venerable Mahakassapa was delighting. So when you get into deep meditations, when you start enjoying the seclusion, when your a spiritual path takes off, when you're building up the joy states and the samadhi, then it's such a different way that you experience, and then those things are possible. So when the sky has rained down and the grass is 4 inches high and the grove is full of flowers like a cloud in the mountain cleft, like the fork of a tree, I'll lie, it will be as soft as cotton buds. I'll act as a master does. Let whatever I get be enough for me. I'll make you as supple as a good worker makes a catskin bag. I'll act as a master does. Let whatever I get be enough for me. I'll control you with my energy as the trainer controls the rutting elephant with a hook. Now that you are well tamed and reliable, I can use you like a trainer uses a straight running horse to practice the safe path cultivated by those who take care of their minds. I shall strongly fasten you to a meditation subject, as an elephant is tied to a post with a firm rope. You'll be well guarded by me, well developed by mindfulness, and unattached to rebirth in all states of existence. You'll use understanding to cut the follower of the wrong path, restrain them by practice, and settle them on the right path. And when you have seen the cause of suffering arise and pass away, you'll be an heir to the greatest teacher. Um, under the sway of four distortions, mind, you led me as if all around the world. And now you won't associate with the great sage of compassion, the cutter of fetters bonds. Like a deer roaming free in the colorful forest, I'll ascend the lovely mountain wreathed in cloud and rejoice to be on that hill free of folk. There is no doubt you'll perish, mind. Then the men and women who live under your will and command, whatever pleasures they experience, they are ignorant and fall under Mara's control. Loving life, they are your disciples' mind. So he has finished his discipleship with the mind. Now he's a true disciple of the Buddha. I'm not sure whether the version that I read is the best translation. I'm sorry that I didn't read out the Sutta Central version. Probably that's better because there were some bits and pieces that were a bit strange, but that's okay. I think overall, whatever you heard, I hope is inspiring, and I hope it gives you a bigger picture of what that set of verses is about. But more importantly, it makes a very important point about how our mind concocts all these things, how it deceives us and tells us all sorts of stuff, including tells you you are lonely, you are bored, you are suffering, all of these things. But it's also our mind when it is having right view, having mindfulness, having energy, able to look at the things otherwise. So it's kind of really beautiful the way it was coming out, and especially the way this monk was saying things, talking to his own mind as if it was something else or somebody else. I found it quite beautiful and relatable and very relevant, not just for just loneliness, for any state of mind that we are experiencing. So I really encourage you as a way of also dealing with your loneliness or any other states of mind, even depression. You can even start from this set of verses to bring up some beautiful inspiration in your heart, and also to bring up some insights about this mind, not to believe it, and also to see how you are still empowered when the mind has a supervisor, when the mind has a guard. So mindfulness and wisdom, when those two are there, then it's like with the elephant trainer, with you are now not just going around just like heedlessly without any supervision, without any advice, but with wisdom and with mindfulness, then you can actually train your mind, tame it. And instead of you being the mind's disciple, the mind goes under the discipleship of the Buddha, the right view, the right understanding, these beautiful teachings. So this is what I'm going to share with you. See whether that is helpful. So any questions, comments, anything you would like to share, you are all very welcome. Okay, so Danusha says, Venerable, as a monastic, in your personal experience, how did you reach such self-contentment and self-equilibrium in seclusion? How do you know to ask such a question so confidently? Am I in such a self-contentment and self-equilibrium in seclusion? I mean, it's very beautiful if you think so. Well, yes, at times it is, but at times it's not. This is the truth. Therefore, everybody, this is true. For all monastics, we all go through, different terrain. It's not like going smooth and going up in a nice way and get enlightened just like that. It doesn't happen like that. Sorry to disappoint you. We are human beings, and we also go through different stages. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it flats out, sometimes it goes down a little bit also, and then you picks it up, and this is how you go. So whatever it is, it's a good question. So whatever it is, I have managed to stay in monastic life for about 15 years now, right? So, and also in forest monasteries and in seclusion, but not always in seclusion. I've also had busy parts of my monastic life, like when I was doing the building project, that was not in seclusion. But now, especially in the last 4 years that I have been at Santi, even though there is a bit of busyness, it's mostly very, very a secluded, quiet forest. Like a really deep stillness is here, and it is a place that uh, is very just like those mountains and far away from everything kind of place. A really deep seclusion is available here. And how do you deal with it? So like when the meditation is going well, when I feel like my mind is uplifted, when I have joy, even not even only with meditation, also with service. So this is why I love teaching, I love giving, I love serving. This is a great energy, a source of energy for my own practice. So when even those things really brighten up and uplifts my mind, and every time, I mean, I really love suttas. I love the Buddha's teachings. So I read them, I contemplate them, I listen to them. So even by other monks, other nuns, and all of these things, when the mind is inclined towards these things, it is so at ease. You just enjoy. You can even say indulge in seclusion. It is so beautiful to be in your kuti. Like in Santi, often it's really misty, very cool, very quiet. You hear just the crickets, the sounds of the birds, really nice. And then you just stay there and it settles you down. It's really nice. But there are other times, due to sickness of the body or due to other things that's happening in your life, things starts to become yucky at times. This is how it is. Even the beautiful states of minds are also not permanent, right? They too change and subject to vanishing. So again, sometimes you also go through difficult phase. How do I deal with those times? Exactly, I just with you.
And then we have to listen.
So what I do is, I do the very thing. So if it is really bad, if I'm really suffering at times, it's really not going well, I really like to make other people happy. Yeah, so then I've told these things before. I make really nice hot chocolates, chais, make people write really nice cards, give them some flowers. There's so many little creative things that I like creative things. So I do these things. So you can find. I also like to, write things, come up with like really nice Dhamma articles. I do them when I'm not going a good time, but when I'm having a good time, also I do these things. So it's not a way to sort of decide, but these things again brings me back very quickly into good states because that's wholesome engagements, right? These are all part of the path. So going for a nice walk, enjoy the nature, And sometimes, if you have enough energy in the mind, you just wait, you just rest. Sometimes it's all due to just being too tired, just being too traveling too much or doing too many things. All you need is then just rest. So it's gradual. So I still use all of these things that I share with you. I don't share anything that I don't do really. All these very practical things are things that I do myself. So I go through all these kinds of things myself, in my own way. And these are the things that I have found very helpful to still keep myself in seclusion. So it is always coming back to the Dhamma. So listening to the suttas again and again, reflecting them, that really brings you back and grounds you, brings back that energy. There are 3 stages for energy. So the Arambaka Virya, and then there is the Arambaka Dhatu, Parakkama Dhatu, and Nikkamana Dhatu. So there's these 3 stages. So the first stage is that initial inspiration. Then you need some inspiration to keep going, just to maintain yourself. And then you need another level of energy to make the breakthroughs happen. So there are different levels of energy. But whenever things are going down, it's again remembering the initial stages. Also, remembering how difficult it is. Now, this part, most of you who are lay people listening to this talk will not like to hear, but it is really great for me to say, remind myself to keep myself in robes and in seclusion. And this remember, oh, how wonderful it is. I don't have to deal with a husband. Oh, how wonderful it is. I don't have to deal with children. Oh, how wonderful it is that I don't have to be in traffic going to work. Oh, how wonderful it is. I don't have to go shopping, do all these things, socialize, go to parties. Oh, how wonderful it is. Just that much. I get so disenchanted. Even if monastic life is suffering, I'd rather suffer in monastic life than go out there and get into these other suffering. Yeah. So wherever it is, the general sufferings of having a body sickness or difficult people in your life around us, these things can happen, bad weather or whatever else that is giving us suffering. Much better deal with that and not the others are like that. And also reflecting how wonderful, how beneficial, how beautiful. I often wonder how lucky, I am. And whoever who is at Santi or in any of the monasteries, it's like I'm on retreat. I have my own retreat center, this beautiful big meditation hall. Sometimes I'm the only one there. I have a whole big meditation hall, a whole big cave to myself, a whole forest. Even sometimes there's only very few people. It feels like the whole forest is is there for me to practice. And all of these conducive conditions, I reflect the generosity of these beautiful people, all of you guys, all of you, big and small ways supporting us. When I see that, it inspires my heart. It also inspires my heart to see the energy and effort you all put in, having a difficult life, in the sense I'm having to deal with work, having to deal with family, having to deal with, all of these things. And with all of that, still you all are also putting in the time, meditating, and sometimes you come and talk to me and say how your practice is going. And it gives me so much inspiration. I say, wow, they're doing it. So I need to also get my act together and not just waste time and get carried away doing, stupid things sometimes, which happens sometimes. You get carried away with the small things, but, you really reset. So these are beautiful ways of reflecting. So seeing the danger of what happens if you don't incline to seclusion and go away from seclusion, that is returning to lay life or into the busy life or into busy kind of monastic life. And then also seeing the benefits of seclusion and the beauty of it and really, getting in touch with it. So this is also really helpful to keep you sort of grounded as much as possible. So these are ways that we monastics use our mind, because it's the mind, right, which creates. And for me also, more and more I see this unreliability of the mind and how the mind creates and concocts things. I realized all I got to do is just wait for a little while, and all of those passes away, and things change, and I'm again happy. So, yeah, thank you for that one question, which I took, and we've gone over time. Okay, I hope most of these are others are not questions, but let's see. Yes, so Ying says, I also has guidance of insightful teachers like Ajahn Brahm. I do, but it's not that much time that we have. But yes, it's actually very true. Ajahn Brahm has been very, very kind to me. So has Ajahn Brahmali. But Ajahn Brahm especially, I mean, not that long ago, I did go through a bit of a difficult time myself. So I had a chat with Ajahn Brahm, and he said, anytime you need, I'm happy to give you time. And he told me the specific time. He told me not to tell anyone that special time, that he can say that this time I can always give to you. And he did. So anytime I reached out, he gave me very easily 45 to 1 hour, for 45 minutes to about 1 hour, either to just have a chat, discuss Dhamma, talk about my problems, whatever. But I never liked talking about problems. I like rather finding solutions, in the sense, work towards something. So the last time I saw him, when I was going through a difficult time, he gave me 45 minutes. And all told him is, there's no point talking about all the difficulties I have. Instead, how about you sort of help me to incline my mind to peace, to meditation? Because that was a time that it was a bit not in a good way. So then he was very happy. He said, "Yes, I like this." He was very happy, and he then started to talk about peace, about meditation, about joy, slowly, slowly. In 5 minutes, it took only 5 minutes of talking, then we were both meditating. For the next 40 minutes, both of us just on Zoom meditate. It was really, really sweet. And at the end of the 40 minutes, then he sort of ended and had a little chat, just short few words, and we ended. So, yeah, it is true. So, it is very nice to have that kind of support, and it's really beautiful. It's inspiring too. He's a really, really busy person, but giving people like myself that kind of time is also very beautiful, but I don't take it often. I don't like to waste his time unnecessarily. Yeah, how do we best explain these concepts to non-Buddhists who may be new to meditation, jhana, wholesome actions, dana, sila, bhavana, and who may be lonely? Yeah, you don't have to say them as Buddhist teachings, but anybody. I mean, these are things even the counselors tell people who are experiencing depression. They ask them to do service. This is quite common even in secular kind of ways of dealing with these things. So just encourage them to make somebody else happy. um, and they can still find some inspiring things to read. It's not just only the Buddhist teachings. There are very beautiful, inspiring stories, inspiring biographies of very, inspiring, wholesome people and things like that. So they can still read that, and then that still can help, inspiring things. So even if it is not Buddhist, they can still follow these similar kind of things.